I was in Paris at the same time as Donald Trump, Vladimir Putin and other world leaders. And while I didn't stand in the rain to hear Trump speak, I did attend presentations by Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and French President Emmanuel Macron. In addition to commemorating the 100th anniversary of the end of World War I and the Paris Peace Forum, Macron and Trudeau also participated in Paris Digital Week. I was in town to speak at the UN's Internet Governance Forum, IGF, and the GovTech Summit. Trudeau spoke at the GovTech Summit, where entrepreneurs from around Europe met with government leaders to discuss how the tech sector and government can work together. Macron spoke at the Internet Governance Forum's opening ceremony. Both leaders talked about the need for government to engage with tech companies to confront online challenges such as misinformation, aka fake news, foreign meddling in elections, extremism, divisiveness, and harassment. But Trudeau also stressed the need for citizens to protect themselves. "You can't cross the street and think that traffic laws will protect you," he said. He called on leaders to start with honest, real, direct conversations and not give in to the type of fear-mongering and polarization that's all too familiar in politics. Without mentioning the name of his counterpart to the South, Trudeau did express thoughts about how politicians shouldn't use social media. He said that it can be a very good way to reach out to constituents and is more direct and immediate than issuing a press statement. But he's not a fan of using it to push someone into being angry. He added, "If it ends up in a screaming match between one side versus the other side, whoever is better at nasty is going to win." Macron's speech was unlike any I've heard from a head of state in my many years of attending the IGF and other international conferences. Rather than the typical, "Welcome to my country and have a great conference," it was an actual policy speech aimed at the technology industry and the government officials and activists in the audience. And it wasn't sugar-coated. After a few typical platitudes about the great opportunities ushered in by the internet, he launched into a critical appraisal of the negative aspects of cyberspace and called for increased government regulation. "The internet is obviously under threat," he said, pointing to the effects of state-sponsored and criminal cyberattacks, extremism and authoritarian governments along with hate speech and online harassment. He even touched on the controversial issue of anonymity, which must continue to allow freedom of expression, but must not allow criminals or terrorists to avoid prosecution. Acknowledging that some would push back, he nevertheless advocated that governments regulate the internet, not in an authoritarian way, but in a way that includes all stakeholders. My favorite line was his contrast between the California internet and the Chinese internet, drawing a distinction between the extremes of a strong government regulation in China and Silicon Valley's tradition of wanting the internet to be self-governing and free of almost all government regulation. He wants a middle ground with government playing a major role, in cooperation with industry and advocacy groups. "What we need to do is learn to regulate together." Macron also spoke about the Paris Call for Trust and Security in Cyberspace, which was signed by 51 countries and endorsed by multiple companies including Facebook, Google, Microsoft, HP and IBM. It was not, however, signed by the US, Russia or China. The vaguely worded non-binding agreement reaffirms support for an open, secure, stable, accessible and peaceful cyberspace, asserting that the same rights that people have offline must also be protected online. It also reaffirms the applicability of international human rights law in cyberspace. It condemns malicious cyber activities in peacetime, and calls for collaboration among governments, the private sector and civil society to create new cybersecurity standards that enable infrastructures and organizations to improve cyber protections, and, in a nod to the concerns raised by foreign interference into elections in the US, Brazil, the UK, and elsewhere, it promises to strengthen our capacity to prevent interference by foreign actors aimed at undermining electoral processes through malicious cyber activities. A few years ago, a speech like this from a Western head of state would have been strongly condemned by many in Silicon Valley who believed that the role of government was to keep its hands off the internet. Indeed, there is a still worry about clumsy government rules or micromanagement of an industry that sprints more like a gazelle than a snail pace of governments that would regulate it. That doesn't mean that government should have no role. It is the responsibility of government to set broad rules and to hold all of us, including big tech companies, accountable. Government shouldn't tell companies what type of technology to build, but they can establish general principles and, in the words of Justin Trudeau, traffic laws, to help protect us. Larry Magid is a tech journalist and internet safety activist.